Imagine waking up on a Tuesday morning. The sun is streaming through your window, but there is no blaring alarm clock shattering the peace. Is no frantic rush to shower, no lukewarm coffee gulped down over the sink, and no knot of anxiety in your stomach about a morning commute or a boss demands your soul in exchange for a paycheck. Instead, the day stretches out before you, like a blank canvas completely yours to paint. Now imagine achieving this state of absolute existence, not by winning the lottery or building a tech empire, but by saving a specific attainable number. That is a fraction of what society tells you is necessary. We have been collectively brainwashed. The financial industry, the media, and perhaps even your well-meaning parents have drilled a narrative into your head that you need a mountain of gold, $2 million, $3 million, maybe $5 million, before you can dare to step off the hamster wheel. They tell you that retirement is a destination reserved for the elderly, a waiting room for the end of life that you can only enter after 4 decades of servitude. Here at Bakey Invests, we look at the math, not the myths. And the math tells a startlingly different story. The truth is that you can reclaim your time and your life with a portfolio of just $500,000. I know how that sounds. To the skeptics, it sounds like a fantasy. To the overworked, it sounds like a cruel joke. They will tell you that $500,000 isn't enough to survive, let alone thrive. But those critics are operating on an outdated operating system. They are confusing the cost of a luxury lifestyle with the price of freedom. Today we are going to dismantle that lie piece by piece and show you exactly how this number transforms from a figure on a screen into a license to live on your own terms. Let's start by recalibrating your definition of wealth. If I asked you to close your eyes and picture a rich person, what pops into your mind? A Lamborghini in the driveway of a 10-bedroom mansion? Is it flying private to Paris for a weekend shopping spree? If that is your definition, yes, you need millions. But if your definition of wealth is autonomy, the ability to sleep well, to eat well, to spend time with loved ones, and to never answer to a supervisor again, then the price tag drops predominantly. True wealth isn't about the accumulation of possessions, it is about the accumulation of time. It is the ability to wake up and say, I own this day. Here is the mechanism that makes this possible, stripped of all the complex jargon financial advisors use to justify their fees. It is about converting capital into a salary that you don't have to work for. When you have money properly vested, it stops being static cash and starts being an employee. It works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never calling in sick and never asking for a raise. Let's look at the conservative approach first. Imagine you take that $500,000 and place it into safe, boring fixed income vehicles. We are talking about bonds, high-yield accounts, and stable instruments that churn out a reliable 5% return year over year. This scenario, your army of dollars is generating $25,000 annually. Now pause, I can hear the objection already. $25,000 isn't a lot of money, and if you are comparing it to a corporate salary in a major city, you are right. You are comparing apples to oranges. That $25,000 is pure freedom. You did not trade a single hour of your life for it. You did sit in traffic for it. You did not tolerate a toxic workplace for it. That is over $2,000 landing in your account every single month simply because you exist. For a single person with a paid-off home or a modest lifestyle in a low-cost area that covers the basics: food, shelter, warmth, it buys you survival without servitude. But we can do better than survival. If you are willing to embrace the volatility of the stock market, investing in the great companies that drive the global economy, history suggests you can achieve returns significantly higher. A balanced, diversified portfolio has historically yielded closer to 8 or 9% over the long haul. Let's be prudent and call it 8.5%. Do the math with me. 8.5% of $500,000 is $42,500 a year. That breaks down to roughly $3,540 every single month. Now the conversation changes completely. We are no longer talking about just scraping by. We are talking about a median individual income for doing absolutely nothing. This is enough to travel. This is enough to pursue passions that don't pay well, but feed your soul. This is enough to volunteer, to write that book, or to simply sit on a porch and watch the rain without worrying about a spreadsheet. This is the core philosophy we preach at Bakey Invests: the transition from being a consumer to being a capitalist. Most people go through life as funnels. Money comes in from their job and it immediately flows out to merchants, landlords, and car dealerships. They are temporary holding tanks for currency. To become free, you must become a reservoir. You must build a dam that catches the water and uses the pressure to generate electricity. When you have that $500,000 generator humming, the background, you have achieved a form of immortality. You are no longer eating your seed corn. You are living off the harvest, and the field replants itself every year. However, there is a catch. There is always a catch. The barrier to this life, usually an income problem, it is a spending problem. It is an ego problem. The vast majority of people are addicted to the appearance of wealth rather than the reality of it. They are engaged in a relentless arms race with their neighbors to see who own the newest car, the biggest television, and the most expensive wardrobe. Consider the person who earns $100,000 a year but spends $95,000 to maintain their image. They are running on a treadmill set to the highest speed, terrified that if they stumble, they will be thrown off. They are infinitely poorer than the person who has $500,000 invested and lives happily on $40,000 a year. The first person is a slave to their lifestyle. The second person is the master of their destiny. We need to have a brutally honest conversation about what you actually need. Do you need the 3-row SUV that costs $700 a month just to transport one person to an office? Do you need to order takeout 4 nights a week because you are too exhausted from working to cook? It is a vicious cycle. You spend money to compensate for the misery of earning money. When you break that cycle, you realize that a simpler life costs drastically less and yields drastically more happiness. Let's paint a picture of what this looks like practically. Imagine you are living in a paid-off house or perhaps a modest apartment in an affordable city. Property taxes, utilities, insurance, and groceries come to $2,500 a month. With your portfolio generating over $3,500, you are not just covering your bills, you have $1,000 surplus every month. You are saving money while unemployed. You are getting richer while sleeping. This scales too. If you have a family, number might need to be higher, or you might need to make different choices about where you live. But the principle remains ironclad. If you can lower your burn rate, the amount of cash you incinerate every month just to exist, you lower the threshold for your freedom. The tragedy is that most people defeat themselves before they even begin. They look at the number, $500,000. They see an impossible mountain. They think, I can barely save $100. How will I ever get there? They let the magnitude of goal paralyze them. But wealth is not built in a day, it is built in layers. If you can manage to put away $2,000 a month, you hit that $500,000 mark in roughly 18 years. Now 18 years sounds like a lifetime to a 20-year-old. But ask anyone in their 40s how fast the last 2 decades went. The time will pass regardless. You can arrive at that future date with a fortune, or you can arrive with nothing but regrets and a collection of old receipts. And you don't need to start with $2,000. Start with $500. Start with whatever you can scrape together. As you progress, your career will advance your income will rise, and if you can fight, urge to upgrade your lifestyle every time you get a raise, your savings rate will explode. This isn't magic. Is simple arithmetic combined with discipline. It is a path open to almost anyone who is willing to prioritize future self over their present impulses. Let's talk about the silent killers of wealth. The things we buy without that drain our potential freedom. The biggest culprit is the automobile. We have normalized the idea that we must drive a brand new machine every few years. Between depreciation, interest on loans, insurance, and fuel, the average person pumps hundreds of thousands of dollars into their vehicles over a lifetime. That isn't just transportation money, that is your retirement fund vanishing into exhaust fumes. There are the micro leaks, the daily lat, the convenience store snacks, the subscription services you don't watch. Average American sets fire to about $3,000 a year on these trivialities. If you took that $3,000 and invested it annually at 8% over 30 years, it grows to nearly $400,000. Think about that. Your coffee habit and your laziness about cooking are literally costing you a decade of freedom. I am not saying you can never have a treat. I am saying you need to understand the trade-off. Is that sandwich worth 3 days of work in your 60s? Because that is the exchange rate. Now, here is the secret that nobody tells you about reaching this milestone. Once you have that $500,000 backing you up, your relationship with work changes fundamentally. Even if you don't quit, you establish what we call walk-away power. When you live paycheck to paycheck, you are vulnerable. You have to laugh at the boss's bad jokes. You have to agree to the unreasonable deadline. You have to swallow your pride because you need the money to keep the lights on. But when you have a freedom fund, you become dangerous in the best possible way. You can negotiate harder. You can take risks. You can pitch that bold idea because you aren't terrified of being fired. You have always wanted to launch a startup. Maybe you want to pivot careers and become a carpenter or a painter. When your basic survival is covered by your investments, you can afford to be a beginner again. You can afford to fail. That safety net allows you to swing for the fences. You aren't retiring from life, you are retiring from anxiety. You are retiring from doing things just to pay for things you don't need. People often ask me about inflation. Nick, they say, won't $500,000 be worthless in 20 years? It is a valid fear, but the strategy accounts for it. If your portfolio grows at 8% and you only spend 6%, that remaining 2% stays in the pot. It compounds, grows the principal, so that next year your withdrawal is slightly larger in dollar terms, keeping pace with the rising cost of bread and milk. You are building a living organism that grows alongside the economy. And let's not forget the ultimate safety buffer: government benefits. While we should never rely solely on Social Security, it is likely to exist in some form. Even a modest monthly payment from the state acts as a massive stabilizer. If your investments cover your needs and then Social Security kicks in on top of that, you move from comfortable to luxurious. You go from basic travel to world exploration. Ultimately, this journey is about character more than it is about calculus. The person who builds a $500,000 portfolio has to become a different version of themselves to get there. You have to develop an immunity to advertising. You have to find contentment in things that are free. Nature, relationships, learning, health. You have to deprogram yourself from the consumerist cult that measures success by the brand on your handbag or the badge on your car hood. This psychological shift is the true victory. When you stop trying to impress strangers, you stop bleeding money. You realize that the guy in the Ferrari might be drowning debt while the woman in the 10-year-old sedan is secretly free. At Bakey Invest, we want you to be the latter. We want you to choose reality over the facade. If you are sitting there thinking that $42,000 a year isn't enough to live on, I challenge you to look at your bank statement. I challenge you to highlight every expense that was essential for your survival and happiness. Cross out everything that was for status, convenience, or temporary dopamine hits. You will likely find that you are spending money you don't have to impress people you don't like on things you won't remember buying in a month. The problem isn't the size of your shovel, it is the size of the hole you are digging. If you can learn to be content with a simpler, more authentic life, finish line is closer than you ever dared to dream. The choice is yours. You can keep grinding, chasing the mirage of millions while life passes you by, or you can build your fortress of $500,000, step out of the race, and finally truly start living.